Hi everyone, today I'm here with an unhaul video. There are about 50 odd books that I would like to get rid of, so I have decided to separate it into two parts. So this is going to be part one, and because of how many books there are, I'm not going to go into much detail about what every single book is about, but I will be telling you why exactly I'm getting rid of it and all that stuff. So these are all of the books that I have read, so there's not a single one that I'm getting rid of that I have not read. So yeah, let's get started. Also, I think it might be worth mentioning I'm getting rid of these books not because they're terrible books or anything like that. There will be different reasons, so please don't take it as an offense or anything like that. It's just my personal opinion, and I don't exactly want to keep these books because I've got limited space on my shelves as well, especially on the red shelves. So I also prefer to keep the books that sort of reflect my reading life in a way that just to keep my favorite books, the ones that reflect what I like in books, what types of books I like, rather than just the books that I've read and didn't particularly enjoy or never want to reread again. So that's the main reason why I'm getting rid of those. So with all that in mind, let's get started. So the first one's going to be Mirage by Samaya Dowd, which was a pretty book from Fairy Loot, which is always a shame to give away Fairy Loot books because a lot of the time they're signed, they're pretty editions, like that one is signed, but I don't need this book, to be honest. And I did enjoy this one when I read it, but it's just I'm never ever gonna reread it. And I think there's a sequel to it somewhere as well, but I was never interested in picking up the sequel, so what's the point of keeping the first book if I'm not ever gonna reread it or carry on with the series? But I remember really being surprised by this book, and like I said, it's really pretty. I like the purple sprayed edges and everything, and the fact that it's signed and special edition and all of that, but I just don't need it. Next one is another Fairy Loot book, and that is To Best of the Boys by Mary Weber. And again, this book really pleasantly surprised me. And I sort of thought at one point that I wanted to get a sequel, but I never did, so I never carried on with the series. And now at this point, it does feel like I'd have to reread it in order to continue with the series, and I don't exactly want to because I've got other books on my shelves that I would rather read and that are calling to me much more than this one does. So this one is going as well, but again, it's one of those Fairy Loot special editions. I think it's signed. Yes, it is signed. I feel terrible for getting rid of that, but oh well. The next two, one of them was actually again from a Fairy Loot box, but then yeah, so it's Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Skye. This one I was really pleasantly surprised. I remember reading a whole chunk of it in one day when I was just basically gonna make sure whether I was gonna read the book at all or not. So I wanted to read like a chapter of it and then think whether I was gonna unhaul it back then or not. But instead I read like over 100 pages in one go, which is unusual for me with YA fantasy books, but that's what happened, and I was really pleasantly surprised by this book. I really enjoyed it to the point that then I also went ahead and bought a sequel to it, and it's on Ageology. The sequel was actually much more disappointing. That's one of the reasons why I don't want to keep these ones, because the sequel did let me down, and if I wanted to reread this book, then this one would just be a disappointment and a letdown, and I just didn't want that to happen, obviously. But unfortunately, the second one just didn't live up to my expectations, but the first one was really good, and it's a shame that the second one just wasn't that great, but I'm getting rid of both of those. So the next one is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. That's the book that I read for Just One More Page book club, which I used to be a part of, and then I sort of slowly faded away from there because I'm just not great with commitment, I guess, when it comes to reading books. But yes, I did enjoy this one, and I would like to read more Agatha Christie books, but it's just, I don't feel the need to keep this one. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't really need to keep this one. I feel like if I wanted to read more of Agatha Christie like right now, I'd get more books maybe in matching series or something, but I don't feel the need to read it anytime soon, if that makes sense. Maybe in the distant future I will be reading those because I enjoy this type of books, and yeah, I'd like to read more, but it just not on the list of my priority. And what's the point of keeping one? Even though I did enjoy it, I think I gave it 3 or 4 stars. It was enjoyable, but just I don't want to reread it or keep it much. So there we go. Next one is another one that I read for just One More Page Book Club, but that was Secrets of Strangers by Charity Norman. And this book again really surprised me back in the day. I really enjoyed it. It's about 3 hostages on one cafe and a man on the brink. So it was like a hostage story, and I did enjoy it. But again, I'm never gonna reread it because I know what happens, and it's not exactly something I want to get back to and reread to experience it again and all of that. Then we've got a really pretty book, and I've read it only recently, but that is Girl in the Walls by AJ Noose. And I was considering of not getting rid of books that I read this year so that I can physically see which books I read this year, but so I might still do that. I might still keep that one just for the sake of that. I'm not 100% sure, but this will be going at some point, just knowing me, not on time. But it's a really pretty book. It's so lovely on the inside and everything, and it's signed as well. I did buy it myself. It wasn't anything, it's just this exclusive edition from Woodstones. I just didn't love this book as much. I gave it 3 stars. It was more of a disappointment because I expected a gothic novel out of it, and it really wasn't. It was more of a contemporary story where not much happens. So I never ever want to reread it, and what's the point of keeping it on my shelf? Even though the cover is pretty and all that, I just don't want it, honestly. Similarly, and a lot of people might hate me for this, but it's Julie and the Shark by Kira Millwood Hargrave. I now definitely know that this author is just not for me. I also read The Girl of Ink and Stars a few years ago, and it's again one of the popular books, but she just wasn't for me. I did not enjoy that book all that much at all. So same with this one. I did enjoy this one though. I gave it 3 stars, but there's just something about this author. I can't quite get on with her, and I don't enjoy her books as much as everybody else seems to enjoy them, even though it's again really pretty book with a lot of beautiful illustrations that make the book so atmospheric and lovely and all of that. But I'm just never ever going to reread it, and even though it's really pretty, I just don't want it. I don't know whether I'm going to be selling these books somewhere or give them away to somebody who wants them, give them charity shops. I haven't actually decided yet what I'm going to do with those. Then I've got 3 books by Michael Morpurgo, which is Shadow, Little Manfred and The Butterfly Lion. Even though I do enjoy this author and his books and what he comes up with, and they're always at least a 3-star books for me. A lot of the time they're 4 stars as well, and I do enjoy his writing. His books always make me cry, like always, and the fact that he's writing about nature and animals and these heartbreaking stories, and a lot of the time slightly historic as well, I love them. But also I don't think I will ever be rereading them, and they're not exactly reflecting again my book taste when I look at my red bookshelf, because at least these ones, I didn't love them. I think I've given all of them 3 or 4 stars, but it's not like they were that memorable to me, so I don't remember most of what happens in them already, even though they were really sweet. Especially this one was actually really sweet, and so is that one, but I don't want to keep them. And I also have a bunch on my unread bookshelf from this author as well, so there might be some that I would like to keep on my shelves, but these 3 will definitely be going. Another one that people might hate me for, but it is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. I know it's popular and loved by so many different people. I'm just not one of them, and honestly it happens so many times when a really popular book just doesn't jam with me. I don't like it as much, and I DNF books that are popular a lot of the time as well, which is not a good thing, but I can't do anything about it. And unfortunately I even DNF'd this one. I went just probably over halfway through and DNF'd it because it just wasn't keeping my attention. I found it boring. I found that nothing was happening. I did love the atmosphere though, and I did like the main character, and I did like how we were going through his life, how he we were in his head, how he was thinking about different things, how pondering about life and all of that, that was interesting. But the fact that there was no plot in this book, at least to me, that bugged me, and I just found it boring, honestly. It sounds really harsh, but I just, yeah, wasn't a fan, so I DNF'd it. Another one that slightly breaks my heart to get rid of it, but that is cat poems by different poets. But as much as I love cats, this book, I don't know, it just, I'm not a poetry person, I don't read poems a lot, and there's nothing like outstanding for this poetry collection for me. Even though it's about cats, I don't think I will ever reread it. Maybe I should hold on to it for like the sake of it because I love cats, but I don't think I want to do that for that reason, and genuinely I don't think I will ever reread it, so this is going. Then I got a middle grade book, The Ash House by Unhaul Walker. I'm so sorry. I kind of like the cover, and again it's a signed edition, but I just found this book a little bit too weird. And not in a good way. I enjoy a weird book when it's like creepy and mysterious and we don't exactly know what's going on, but it was weird in a different way. I can't quite exactly describe. They were obsessed with these nicenesses and all the I don't know, it was weird. So yeah, I will never reread this one, and hopefully it will just go to somebody who will like this book a lot more. The next one is Playing with Fire by Tess Gerritsen. It was one of my blind date with a book that I bought about 5 years ago now, and really enjoyed it. This pleasantly surprised me, so I've held on to that one for a long time, just thinking that I might one day reread it, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But it was a 4-star book. I seriously enjoyed it, every aspect of it, the mystery, the atmosphere, the added element of a different thing that I don't exactly want to say. It was a pleasant surprise. It was a good book, but like I said, I won't ever reread it. So, and it doesn't really reflect my taste all that much, because it just doesn't. So this one will be going too. Another one I'm getting rid of is Ghost of the Nightingale by Diana Gorman and Patrick J. Gorman. I was sent this book by the publisher of Austin Macaulay Publishers for an honest review, and it was a while ago now. I did read it and sort of enjoyed it, but I don't know, it just didn't quite love it at all. I think I gave it 3 stars, and it's only a short one. It's not to say it's a bad book at all. It was interesting and I enjoyed it, but I'm never ever going to reread it again. But it's a World War II fiction novel. Sorry if the angle's changed, I just had to empty the memory card. But I do have a few more in this part to talk about, so let's go with it. My next one is The Telephone Box Library by Rachel Lucas. And I did enjoy this book and I like the cover, but I'm never going to reread it, and it was slightly disappointing, but I did enjoy it. It's just one of those fluffy books, but yeah, you just read them, enjoy them, and forget about them. They don't stick with you. That's definitely one of those, unfortunately. My next one is Little by Edward Carey, which is like an imagining of Madame Tussaud, who's like obviously a famous figure. And I did enjoy this book actually quite a lot. I gave it 4 stars, and I think it was one of my favourite books at some point, but I just never gonna reread it, let's face it. But it's not to say it's a bad book in the slightest way, because it was a great one. I did really enjoy it, and it has got different illustrations in there as well. But like I said, I'm just not gonna ever reread it, so it's going. Okay, so the next 2 both are by Jessie Burton, and so the first one is The Miniaturist and the other one is The Muse. So I do enjoy historical fiction, and these books would fall into the category of books that I actually enjoy reading. But there was something about these ones. In this one there was like a death of an animal, a cruel death of an animal, that really sort of tinted the experience for me, and I just do not want to reread it for that reason, even though it might be silly, because I did enjoy the main story of the book. I think I gave it 4 stars, but that death of animals is just something I can't deal with. So it's not the main reason why I didn't like it. There was just something about it apart from that I don't want to reread it. I know there's a sequel came out just recently and I thought of rereading this one and then getting into that one, so I might still do that, who knows, because I sometimes can't predict what I'm going to do the next day. But I don't think that's going to happen, but this could potentially be a maybe pile. So this one I'm not 100% sure if I'm getting rid of it. I might reread it, but at the same time I just don't want to get myself through that one again, even though I've got already so many unread books on my shelf that I don't know, I'd just rather read something I'm much more excited about, so I don't think that's going to happen. So, and this one as well, I just wasn't impressed with this one. I think I gave it only 3 stars and it felt like it was dragging forever, even though, like I said, I do enjoy historical fiction, but just, I guess this author is just not for me. Even though actually this one is one of the first books I bought in the UK, so it's kind of when I moved to the UK, so it's one of those almost like nostalgic. It was over 5 years ago that I bought this one, and it is quite nostalgic, to be honest with you. So then I've got another one that I read this year. It's Written in the Stars by Ali Harris. Again, I enjoyed this book. I think I gave it 3 stars or 4 stars, I can't quite remember. Looking back on it, I think I would have given it 3 stars. Nothing special. I don't want to reread it, but again, I might just hold on to it just because I read it this year, because it's always nice to look back onto your physical stack of books that you read this year, which is not a big one this year for me. Hopefully second half will change that, but this one's definitely going. And then the last book I'm going to mention in this part is The Crow Garden by Alison Littlewood, and it is another historical fiction, slightly creepy one. It's got something to do with like this woman being accused of being like mad, and she's being treated. I did enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars, but I didn't love it and I'm never gonna reread it. So yeah, but it's definitely my type of book. It's just this specific book didn't quite work for me, unfortunately. So it's definitely going. So yeah, that's part number 1 done. If you read these books and you enjoyed them and it's one of your favorite books, I'm sorry if it hurt you seeing me getting rid of them, but it's just my opinion. And like I said, I've only got one shelf for my read books and I'd rather it to reflect what I like, so some of my favorite books on there to be kept. That's the main reason, so please don't take any offenses there. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!